The FedEx delivery guy knocked on my apartment door at 6:30 on Christmas Eve while I was untangling the lights for my 3-foot artificial tree. I signed for the package, expecting maybe a last-minute gift from a friend who remembered I existed. Instead, I found an itemized invoice for $9,200 for my brother Tyler's European graduation trip, with a handwritten note from my mother, demanding payment by January 15th. No Christmas invitation was included anywhere in that cold manila envelope. I stood there holding that bill while my neighbor's holiday laughter echoed through the thin walls, the crushing realization hitting me that my parents expected me to fund Tyler's celebration while I spent Christmas alone eating microwaved leftovers from a plastic container. Growing up, I was always the responsible daughter who never caused trouble. While Tyler threw tantrums and broke things, I quietly did my homework and helped with household chores. When I turned 16, I got my first job at a local grocery store, bagging groceries after school and on weekends. My parents praised my work ethic for exactly 1 week before it became an expectation rather than an accomplishment. Tyler, on the other hand, played varsity football and baseball. Every Friday night, my parents cheered from the bleachers while I worked late shifts to save money for college. When Tyler struck out or fumbled the ball, Dad would console him with ice cream and encouragement. When I brought home straight-A report cards, Mom would glance at them briefly and say something like, "That's nice, honey," before turning her attention back to Tyler's sports schedule. The pattern continued through high school. I earned a partial academic scholarship to State University, but still needed to work 2 jobs to cover living expenses. Tyler received a small athletic scholarship to a private college that cost 4 times as much, and my parents happily covered the difference without a second thought. They attended his graduation ceremony with professional photographers and a celebratory dinner at the fanciest restaurant in town. When I graduated summa cum laude 2 years earlier, they sent a congratulations text because they were busy with Tyler's playoff games. Now, at 28, I work as a medical billing specialist at a mid-sized hospital. My job involves processing insurance claims, managing patient accounts, and dealing with complex billing procedures that require attention to detail and analytical thinking. I earn a decent salary that allows me to live independently in a modest 1-bedroom apartment across town from my childhood home. Tyler just graduated college at 22 with a degree in communications and no clear career plan. He spent most of his college years partying, switching majors 3 times, and taking 6 years to complete what should have been a 4-year program. Throughout this extended academic journey, my parents never questioned his choices or suggested he might consider working part-time to contribute to his education costs. 3 months ago, I started sending my parents $300 every month after Dad mentioned they were struggling with some household expenses. I thought I was helping them manage their budget during a difficult period. The money came directly from my savings account, reducing my ability to build an emergency fund or save for future goals like buying a house or starting my own family. At Thanksgiving dinner last month, Tyler announced his plans for a European graduation trip with his girlfriend Emma. He wanted to spend 3 weeks visiting London, Paris, Rome, and Barcelona, staying in luxury hotels and dining at expensive restaurants. My parents listened with obvious pride, nodding approvingly as he described his ambitious itinerary. When I offered to contribute a few $100s toward the trip, they quickly dismissed my suggestion, insisting that my contribution was unnecessary and that they had everything under control. The conversation moved on to other topics, but I noticed the meaningful glances exchanged between my parents and Tyler. Something felt off about their casual dismissal of my offer to help, especially considering they had recently asked me for monthly financial assistance. The whole interaction left me with an uncomfortable feeling that I couldn't quite articulate at the time. Over the past few weeks leading up to Christmas, I heard nothing from my family about holiday plans. I assumed I would receive the usual casual invitation to join them for Christmas dinner, as had happened in previous years. When Christmas Eve arrived without any communication from my parents, I figured they were busy with last-minute preparations and would call the next morning. Now, staring at this invoice while Christmas music played softly from my small radio, I began to understand the true nature of my role in the family financial structure. The painful realization crept over me that my parents viewed me not as a daughter to be included in family celebrations, but as a source of funding for Tyler's lifestyle and adventures. But the most shocking discovery was still coming. As I examined the detailed invoice more carefully, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The total cost listed was $12,000, but they were only asking me to pay $9,200. Simple math told me they had already covered $2,800 themselves, yet at Thanksgiving they had made it sound like they were handling the entire expense without any help needed from me. Christmas morning arrived gray and cold, matching my mood perfectly. I made coffee in my small kitchen, listening to the silence that filled my apartment while imagining the warm chaos of family gatherings happening in homes across the neighborhood. At 9 o'clock, I decided to call my parents and ask for an explanation about the invoice. Mom answered on the third ring, and I could immediately hear the sounds of a lively celebration in the background. Children were laughing, dishes were clattering, and multiple conversations were happening simultaneously. The contrast between their joyful gathering and my solitary mourning felt like a physical blow to my chest. "Oh, Lacey," Mom said, her tone shifting to business mode the moment she recognized my voice. "I'm glad you called. Did you receive the information we sent about Tyler's trip? You mean the invoice for $9,200 that arrived yesterday?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "The one that came without any Christmas invitation or even a holiday greeting?" "Tyler deserves this trip after working so hard in college," Mom replied, without addressing my question about Christmas. Her voice carried the same tone she used when discussing non-negotiable household rules during my childhood. "He's earned the right to celebrate his achievement and see the world before starting his career." I heard Dad's voice in the background, and Mom handed him the phone. "Lacey, you're making good money now at that hospital job," he said matter-of-factly. "It's time you contributed more significantly to family needs. Tyler is just starting out in life, but you're established in your career. I already send you $300 every month," I reminded him, feeling my frustration building. "How is that not contributing to family needs? That little bit helps with groceries," Dad dismissed, as if $300 was pocket change. "But this is about investing in your brother's future. This trip will give him international experience and cultural awareness that will benefit his career prospects." Before I could respond, Tyler grabbed the phone from Dad. His voice was bright and excited, completely oblivious to the tension of the conversation. "Hey sis! Thanks for helping out with my trip. I've already booked first-class flights on Delta, and we're staying at 5-star hotels in every city. Emma is so excited about the shopping in Paris and the museums in Rome." The casual way he assumed my financial support was guaranteed made my hands tremble with anger. "Tyler, did Mom and Dad tell you they were asking me to pay for your trip?" "Well, yeah. They mentioned you'd be helping out," he said cheerfully. "I figured since you don't have kids or a mortgage or anything, you'd want to support my education. Plus, Emma's parents are contributing too, so it's like a family investment in our future together." His thoughtless assumption that my life was somehow less valuable because I didn't have the same expenses as other people revealed how little my family understood or cared about my personal goals and financial situation. The fact that he mentioned Emma's parents contributing while expecting me to cover the majority of costs made the inequality even more glaring. "Can I ask why I wasn't invited to Christmas dinner?" I finally managed to ask. Mom took the phone back, and her response cut deeper than any physical wound could have. "We didn't think you'd want to come. Honestly, you're always so busy with work, and we know you're not really into big family gatherings. We figured you'd prefer to have a quiet day at home." The background noise suddenly became clearer, and I could distinguish individual voices. Aunt Patricia was there with Uncle Steve and their twin boys. Cousin Jennifer was laughing about something with her new husband. Grandma Ruth was asking someone to pass the cranberry sauce. This wasn't just a small family dinner. This was the full, extended family Christmas celebration. And I was the only person who hadn't been included. "Tyler, tell Lacey about those amazing gifts you opened this morning," I heard Mom say, obviously trying to redirect the conversation toward more pleasant topics. Tyler's voice became animated as he described the expensive watch Dad had given him, the designer luggage set from Mom, and the professional camera equipment from Grandma Ruth to document his European adventure. Each gift he mentioned probably cost more than I spent on groceries in 2 months, yet somehow I was expected to fund his travel expenses while being excluded from the family celebration where these gifts were exchanged. The final devastating revelation came when Tyler casually mentioned something he clearly wasn't supposed to share. "Oh, and Mom, should I tell Lacey about the loan paperwork? I saw those documents on Dad's desk last week." I heard Mom's sharp intake of breath and Dad's stern "Tyler." That's enough in the background. But the damage was done. What loan paperwork? I asked quietly. Tyler, apparently not understanding the significance of what he was revealing, continued talking. Dad took out some kind of loan against the house to cover my college expenses and the trip planning. But then they decided it would be better if you paid it back instead since you don't have kids or a mortgage to worry about. Mom said it would be easier for you than for them. The phone went silent except for the background celebration sounds. My parents had borrowed money against their home to fund Tyler's lifestyle, then decided I should repay their debt because my life circumstances made me a more convenient target for financial obligation. They had planned this manipulation carefully, timing their request to coincide with Christmas, when emotional guilt would be at its peak. I hung up the phone without saying another word. Sitting alone in my quiet apartment while my family celebrated without me, I decided to examine exactly how much money I had been providing to my parents over the years. I pulled out my laptop and logged into my online banking system, determined to trace every payment and understand the full scope of my financial contributions to the family budget. The numbers were even worse than I had imagined. Over the past 3 years, my monthly payments of $300 totaled $10,800. That amount could have covered Tyler's entire European trip with money left over. Yet my parents had never acknowledged these contributions as significant or meaningful. But the financial investigation revealed deeper layers of deception. I decided to call my cousin Jennifer, who had been at today's Christmas celebration, to get her perspective on the family's financial situation. Jennifer, can I ask you something about what Mom and Dad have been telling everyone about money? I began carefully. Oh, Lacey, I'm so glad you called, Jennifer responded immediately. I've been wanting to talk to someone about this for months. Your parents have been telling everyone in the family that you refuse to help them financially, and that you're too focused on your own career to care about family needs. My heart sank as Jennifer continued. At Thanksgiving, your mom told Aunt Patricia that they've been struggling to make ends meet because you won't contribute anything to household expenses. She said they were disappointed that you had become so selfish since getting your hospital job. The cruel irony hit me like a physical blow. While I had been faithfully sending $300 every month, my parents had been portraying me to our extended family as financially selfish and uncaring. They had been accepting my money while simultaneously destroying my reputation within the family circle. Jennifer, I've been sending them $300 every month for the past 3 years, I revealed. That's almost $11,000 total. Are you serious? Jennifer's voice expressed genuine shock. They never mentioned that to anyone. In fact, your dad specifically told Uncle Steve that you had refused to help with any family expenses and that they were managing everything on their own. This revelation prompted me to dig deeper into Tyler's financial situation. I spent the next hour scrolling through his social media profiles, looking for clues about his spending habits and lifestyle. What I discovered made my anger transform into something much deeper and more painful. Tyler's Instagram account was filled with photos of expensive purchases from the past year. Designer clothing from high-end stores, the latest model iPhone, premium headphones, expensive restaurant meals, and frequent trips to entertainment venues that charge substantial admission fees. His posts were captioned with phrases like, "living my best life and grateful for family support." His Facebook profile showed similar patterns of expensive consumption. Photos from baseball games with premium seating, concerts with VIP access, weekend trips to nearby cities with luxury hotel accommodations, and shopping sprees at upscale malls. None of these posts mentioned working a job or earning money to fund these activities. Most revealing were his posts about family supporting my dreams and blessed to have parents who sacrifice everything for my success. The comments from his friends expressed admiration for his parents' generosity and support, with no indication that anyone knew about my financial contributions to the family budget. I calculated roughly how much Tyler's lifestyle was costing based on the items and activities shown in his social media posts. The total came to several $1,000s per month, far exceeding what a recent college graduate could earn from entry-level employment, even if he had been working. This led me to research the cost of Tyler's college education more carefully. I found the tuition rates for his private university and calculated that his 6-year degree had cost approximately $160,000. Even with his partial athletic scholarship, my parents had paid well over $100,000 for his extended college experience. During the same period, I had worked multiple jobs to put myself through state university, graduated with minimal debt, and immediately began contributing to family finances upon securing my hospital position. The contrast in treatment and expectations was stark and undeniable. But the most shocking discovery came when I checked public records online. Property records showed that my parents had refinanced their house 6 months ago, taking out an additional $30,000 beyond their original mortgage balance. The timing coincided exactly with Tyler's final semester of college and the beginning of his trip planning. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place with devastating clarity. My parents had been using my monthly contributions to subsidize their overall household budget while simultaneously borrowing against their home to fund Tyler's college expenses and lifestyle. They had then decided that I should repay this additional debt because my life circumstances made me a more convenient source of ongoing financial obligation. The final piece of evidence came when I remembered something Tyler had mentioned casually during a recent phone conversation. He had been complaining about his part-time job at a local country club being boring and not worth the effort. This comment had seemed insignificant at the time, but now it raised important questions. I used online tools to research employment at upscale country clubs in my parents' area. The positions available included restaurant service, golf course maintenance, and event coordination, all of which typically paid substantially above minimum wage due to the wealthy clientele and tip potential. If Tyler had been working even part-time at such a facility, he should have been earning enough to contribute meaningfully to his own expenses. This realization led to the most painful discovery of all. Tyler had been working and earning money, but he had been hiding his income from our parents to maintain the illusion of complete financial dependence. While they borrowed against their home and pressured me for monthly payments, Tyler was secretly building his own savings account from his undisclosed employment. The manipulation and deception ran even deeper than I had initially understood, and the most devastating revelations were still to come. The next morning, December 26th, I woke up with a new determination to understand the complete financial picture of my family's situation. I remembered something that I hadn't thought about in years. During my college years, my parents had made me an authorized user on their credit cards to help me establish credit history. After graduation, when I got my own credit cards, we had never officially removed my access to their accounts. I located the old credit card information in my filing cabinet and attempted to log into the online account systems. To my surprise, my access was still active on 2 major credit cards that my parents used for household expenses. What I discovered in those account histories made me physically nauseous. The credit card statements from the past 12 months revealed thousands of dollars in charges directly related to Tyler's lifestyle and preferences. The pattern was consistent and overwhelming. Expensive purchases followed immediately by phone calls from my parents asking for emergency financial assistance with household expenses. In January, there were charges totaling $800 at high-end clothing stores, followed by a $600 charge at an electronics retailer. 3 days later, I had received a call from Dad asking for help with an unexpected heating bill. In February, the statements showed $700 at upscale restaurants and $400 at a luxury spa, followed by Mom's request for assistance with grocery expenses. March brought charges for a premium gym membership, expensive car insurance for a luxury vehicle I didn't know Tyler owned, and designer sunglasses that cost more than I spent on groceries in 2 months. April showed purchases at exclusive sporting goods stores and premium golf equipment. Each month followed the same pattern. Tyler's expensive lifestyle, funded by credit cards, followed by requests for me to help with basic family expenses. The most infuriating discovery was a series of charges from early December for Christmas dinner preparations. The credit card statements showed purchases at gourmet food stores, premium wine shops, and specialty dessert bakeries. The total cost for their Christmas celebration, which I had been deliberately excluded from, exceeded $400. This elaborate feast had been charged to credit cards, while they simultaneously demanded $9,200 from me for Tyler's European adventure. But the financial investigation revealed an even more disturbing pattern when I examined the older statements from previous years. The expensive purchases related to Tyler's preferences had been occurring consistently since his freshman year of college. Concert tickets, premium sporting event seats, expensive electronics, designer clothing, luxury restaurant meals, and high-end entertainment expenses appeared monthly throughout his college career. During this same time period, I had been working overtime shifts at the hospital to increase my income and contributing every spare dollar to my savings account. I had been living frugally, shopping at discount stores, cooking meals at home, and avoiding entertainment expenses that I considered unnecessary luxuries. The contrast in lifestyle and financial treatment became even more apparent when I found charges for Tyler's girlfriend, Emma. Expensive jewelry purchases, designer handbags, premium spa treatments, and luxury cosmetics appeared regularly on my parents' credit cards. They had been funding not only Tyler's expensive lifestyle, but also providing luxury items for his girlfriend, while asking me to contribute to basic household expenses. One particularly painful discovery was a charge for professional photography services for Tyler's college graduation celebration. They had paid over $500 for a photographer to document his achievement with professional portraits and ceremony coverage. When I graduated summa cum laude 2 years earlier, they had taken a few quick photos with their phone camera. The credit card statements also revealed charges for Tyler's living arrangements during college. Rather than requiring him to live in standard dormitories or budget apartments like most students, they had paid for upgraded housing in premium student complexes with luxury amenities including fitness centers, swimming pools, and concierge services. As I continued reviewing the financial records, I discovered something that made my hands shake with anger and disbelief. In November of the previous year, there was a credit card application confirmation email in my old email account that I rarely checked. My parents had opened a new credit card account using my personal information and social security number without my knowledge or consent. The account had been used exclusively for Tyler's expenses, including his graduation party, expensive gifts, and preliminary travel planning for his European trip. The current balance was over $4,000, making me legally responsible for debt I had never authorized or benefited from. This unauthorized credit account represented not just financial manipulation but actual identity theft and fraud. My parents had committed a serious crime by opening credit accounts in my name without permission, then used those accounts to fund Tyler's lifestyle while keeping me completely unaware of my legal liability. The emotional impact of these discoveries was overwhelming, but they also provided me with the clarity and motivation I needed to take decisive action. My family had not been simply asking for financial help during difficult times. They had been systematically exploiting me financially, while deliberately excluding me from family relationships and celebrations. The pattern of manipulation, deception, and financial abuse had been occurring for years, and it was time for me to protect myself and establish firm boundaries. Tyler's European trip was not just an expensive vacation, it was the culmination of years of financial exploitation that had finally become too obvious to ignore or rationalize. I spent the rest of that day documenting every piece of evidence and preparing to take action that would force my family to confront the consequences of their behavior. The financial abuse was about to end, and Tyler's stranded situation in Europe would be just the beginning of the accountability they would face. After discovering the full extent of my family's financial manipulation and outright fraud, I spent December 27th developing a comprehensive plan to protect myself and force them to face the consequences of their actions. I was done being the family ATM while being treated as an afterthought in their emotional lives. My first step was to cancel my authorized user access on both of my parents' credit cards. I called each company's customer service line and formally requested removal from the accounts. The representatives were helpful and processed my requests immediately, though they warned me that any pending charges might still process for a few days. Next, I logged into my bank account and immediately canceled the automatic monthly transfer of $300 to my parents. I also changed the account settings to require manual approval for any transfers exceeding $50, ensuring that no one could manipulate me into making impulsive financial decisions during emotional conversations. The unauthorized credit card account required more serious action. I contacted the credit card company's fraud department and filed a formal complaint, explaining that the account had been opened without my knowledge or consent using my personal information. I provided them with documentation showing that I had never received any account materials, never signed any applications, and never authorized anyone to use my identity for credit purposes. The fraud investigator was professional and thorough, explaining that identity theft by family members was unfortunately common and that they would investigate the matter fully. They immediately froze the account to prevent additional charges and began the process of removing my responsibility for the unauthorized debt. I then drafted a certified letter to my parents, documenting their pattern of financial manipulation and demanding immediate changes to our relationship. The letter outlined every discovery I had made: the hidden credit card charges, the unauthorized account opened in my name, the systematic requests for money immediately following Tyler's expensive purchases, and the lies they had told extended family about my supposed refusal to contribute financially. The letter demanded several specific actions: immediate cessation of all requests for financial assistance, public acknowledgement to extended family members of my actual contributions over the years, formal apology for the unauthorized credit account, and respect for my personal boundaries regarding financial matters. I gave them until January 15th, the same deadline they had imposed for Tyler's trip payment, to comply with these demands. But the most impactful part of my plan involved Tyler's current situation in Europe. I knew from his social media posts that he was planning to stay at the Hotel Plaza Athénée in Paris, one of the most expensive luxury hotels in the city. I also knew that European luxury hotels typically required valid credit cards on file for incidental charges and room guarantees. When my parents' credit cards were canceled due to my removal as authorized user, any holds or pending charges at Tyler's hotel would be declined. This would force the hotel to demand immediate payment or alternative guarantees, creating an emergency situation that would require quick resolution. I decided to send my parents a symbolic message along with my formal letter. I went to the bank and obtained a crisp $1 bill, which I placed in an envelope with a note that read, "Santa skipped me too. This represents the value you place on our relationship. Tyler's European vacation is his responsibility, not mine." The dollar bill was a deliberate reference to their exclusion of me from Christmas dinner, while simultaneously expecting me to fund their son's luxury travel. It was also a way to demonstrate that I understood exactly how they viewed my role in the family, as a source of money rather than a person deserving love and inclusion. I arranged to send both the formal letter and the symbolic dollar through certified mail, requiring signatures for delivery. This would ensure that my parents received both messages and couldn't claim ignorance of my new boundaries and expectations. To protect myself from immediate retaliation or emotional manipulation, I also changed my phone number and updated my address with all relevant institutions to use my work address rather than my home address. I informed my supervisor at the hospital about the family situation in general terms, asking for support if my parents attempted to contact me at work. The final element of my plan involved researching legal options for the identity theft and financial fraud. I consulted with a consumer protection attorney who specialized in identity theft cases, providing them with all the documentation I had gathered about the unauthorized credit account and systematic financial manipulation. The attorney confirmed that my parents had committed several serious crimes, including identity theft, fraud, and potentially elder abuse, if they had been manipulating other family members financially. They advised me to file formal police reports and provided guidance on protecting myself from further financial abuse. As I implemented each step of my plan, I felt a growing sense of empowerment and clarity. For years, I had been enabling my family's dysfunction by accepting their treatment and providing financial support without question. By establishing firm boundaries and refusing to continue the pattern, I was finally taking control of my own financial security and emotional well-being. The plan was designed not just to protect me, but to force my family to confront the reality of their behavior and its consequences. Tyler would have to face the reality of being stranded in Europe without unlimited financial backing. My parents would have to acknowledge their manipulation and fraud, and our extended family would learn the truth about who had actually been contributing to family financial needs. 3 days later, on December 30th, my plan began to show results when my phone started ringing with calls from my parents' number. I didn't answer, but the urgency and frequency of their attempts to reach me indicated that the credit card cancellations had created exactly the crisis I had anticipated. The real confrontation was about to begin, and this time I would be prepared for their manipulation tactics and emotional pressure. On New Year's Eve morning, I woke up to loud banging on my apartment door, accompanied by my mother's voice demanding that I open up immediately. Through the peephole, I could see both of my parents standing in the hallway, their faces showing a mixture of anger, panic, and desperation that I had never witnessed before. I opened the door but remained standing in the doorway, making it clear that they weren't automatically invited inside. Dad looked exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes and wrinkled clothing that suggested he hadn't slept well in several days. Mom's usual perfectly styled appearance was disheveled, her hair uncombed and her makeup smudged as if she had been crying. "Lacey, you need to fix this situation immediately," Mom began without any greeting or acknowledgement of our previous conversation. Tyler is stuck in Paris because his hotel cards were declined, and now they're threatening to call the police if he can't pay his bill. This is completely unacceptable behavior from you. Dad stepped forward, his voice taking on the authoritative tone he had used when I was a teenager breaking curfew. Your mother and I are extremely disappointed in your selfish actions. Canceling those credit cards has put your brother in serious danger, and you need to take responsibility for cleaning up this mess. I remained calm and positioned myself so that I was clearly in control of the conversation. The credit cards were canceled because I removed my authorized user access. Tyler's hotel situation is the direct result of your financial planning, not my actions. You destroyed our family finances out of spite, Mom accused, her voice rising with emotion. We trusted you to help us through a difficult period, and instead you've sabotaged your brother's once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to experience European culture and broaden his educational horizons. I pulled out the folder of evidence I had prepared, including printed copies of credit card statements and bank transfer records. Let's talk about trust and family finances. I have documentation showing that over the past 3 years, I've contributed nearly $11,000 to this family, while Tyler has charged thousands of dollars in luxury purchases to your credit cards. Dad glanced at the papers but dismissed them with a wave of his hand. Those are household expenses and reasonable college costs. Tyler needed appropriate clothing and equipment for his academic success. Designer clothing, luxury electronics, and premium entertainment are not college necessities, I replied, pointing to specific charges on the credit card statements. And charging his girlfriend's expensive purchases while asking me for grocery money is not appropriate household budgeting. The conversation was interrupted by Dad's phone ringing. Tyler's name appeared on the caller ID, and Dad answered with obvious anxiety. I could hear Tyler's panicked voice through the speaker, explaining that the hotel was demanding immediate payment of over $3,000 for his extended stay and threatening police involvement for potential fraud. Tyler's voice was shaking as he described his situation. Emma already flew home because her parents cut her off when the cards stopped working. I'm stuck here alone, and the hotel manager says if I can't pay by tonight, they'll have to report this to the authorities. I don't know what to do. Mom grabbed the phone from Dad and tried to reassure Tyler that they would solve the problem quickly. But when Tyler asked if they could wire money or use other credit cards, both parents went silent. The truth was becoming clear even to Tyler. Our parents had been living beyond their means for so long that they had no financial resources left to handle this emergency. Tyler, your sister canceled our credit cards and destroyed our ability to help you, Mom explained, shooting an angry glare at me. You need to call her directly and ask her to take responsibility for fixing this situation. I took the phone from Mom's trembling hands. Tyler, this situation is not my fault or responsibility. Mom and Dad borrowed against their house to fund your lifestyle, then decided I should repay their debt. When I refused to continue enabling their financial irresponsibility, your funding disappeared. Tyler's response revealed just how little he had understood about the family's actual financial situation. What do you mean they borrowed against the house? I thought they had plenty of money for my education and the trip. They never told me you were paying for anything. I've been sending them $300 every month for 3 years. I explained. They've been using my contributions to subsidize the household budget while charging your luxury lifestyle to credit cards. Then they opened a credit card in my name without permission to cover your graduation party and other expenses. The phone went silent as Tyler processed this information. When he finally spoke, his voice had lost its entitled tone and become smaller and more vulnerable. I didn't know any of that. I thought Mom and Dad were just being generous because they wanted to support my education and future career. Dad attempted to regain control of the narrative. Lacey, regardless of past financial arrangements, your brother needs immediate help. You can sort out your grievances with us later, but right now Tyler is in a foreign country, facing a potential legal situation that could affect his future prospects. But Mom's next statement revealed the depth of their financial crisis and desperation. We tried to get cash advances on other cards, but we're already at our credit limits. The bank won't approve any additional loans because of the house refinancing. We literally have no way to help Tyler unless you restore your financial support. This admission confirmed what I had suspected. My parents had been living in a house of cards financially, using credit and borrowing to maintain Tyler's expensive lifestyle while having no actual savings or financial stability. My monthly contributions had been the only reliable income allowing them to make minimum payments on their mounting debt. Tyler, I'll help you get home safely with basic transportation, I offered. But I will not continue funding luxury travel or enabling the financial irresponsibility that created this situation. You'll need to change your hotel to budget accommodations and accept economy transportation home. Tyler's response surprised everyone, his voice breaking with emotion. He said, Emma dumped me when the money ran out. She said she couldn't be with someone who couldn't provide the lifestyle she expected. I'm sitting here alone in Paris realizing that none of my friends really care about me as a person. They only liked having me around because I always paid for expensive restaurants and entertainment. This revelation seemed to hit my parents harder than all the financial evidence I had presented. For the first time, they were seeing the consequences of their enabling behavior. Tyler was discovering that the relationships and lifestyle they had funded for him were shallow and unsustainable. Mom began crying as the full scope of their family dysfunction became clear. Tyler was stranded and emotionally devastated in Europe. Their extended family would soon learn about their financial manipulation and lies, and their house was mortgaged beyond their ability to repay without continued exploitation of my income. But Dad made one final attempt to shift responsibility back to me. Lacey, regardless of our mistakes, you're the only one in this family with the financial ability to fix this situation. If something happens to Tyler because of your refusal to help, you'll have to live with that responsibility for the rest of your life. This attempt at guilt manipulation finally pushed me past my limit for tolerating their emotional abuse. Dad, I'll have to live with the consequences of enabling your financial irresponsibility and Tyler's entitled behavior. This crisis is the direct result of years of poor decisions and manipulation. It's time for all of you to face reality and accept responsibility for your choices. The confrontation was finally forcing my family to confront the unsustainable nature of their lifestyle and relationships. But the process of rebuilding trust and establishing healthy boundaries was just beginning. 3 months later, the transformation in my family dynamics was remarkable and deeply satisfying. The crisis in Paris had forced everyone to confront uncomfortable truths about our relationships, financial responsibilities, and personal growth that had been avoided for years. I did help Tyler get home safely, but with strict conditions that established clear boundaries for future interactions. I arranged for him to stay one final night at a budget hotel near the Paris airport and purchased him an economy-class ticket home. The total cost was less than $400, a dramatic contrast to the $9,200 bill my parents had originally expected me to cover. Tyler returned from Europe completely humbled by his experience of being alone and financially vulnerable in a foreign country. The confident, entitled young man who had casually assumed my financial support would always be available had been replaced by someone who finally understood the value of earning his own way in the world. Within a week of returning home, Tyler found a full-time position at a local restaurant, where he worked as a server during dinner shifts and helped with catering events on weekends. The work was physically demanding and the customers were sometimes difficult, but Tyler approached his job with a dedication and gratitude that surprised everyone in our family. I never realized how hard it is to earn money when people are depending on you, Tyler confided to me during one of our first honest conversations. When Emma left me in Paris, and my friends stopped returning my calls, I understood that I had never really earned anyone's respect or affection. Everything was bought for me by other people. Tyler also began repaying my financial contributions, sending me $50 every month from his restaurant earnings. It was a small amount compared to what he owed, but the gesture demonstrated his commitment to taking responsibility for the years of financial support he had accepted without appreciation or acknowledgement. My parents underwent an even more dramatic transformation, as they were forced to participate in financial counseling and create realistic budgets for the first time in decades. The counselor helped them understand how their enabling behavior had harmed both Tyler and me, while also putting their own financial security at serious risk. Dad took a part-time consulting position with his former company to increase their household income and help pay down the debt from the house refinancing. Mom began working at a local retail store, her first job in over 20 years. Both of them had to adjust to living within their means rather than relying on credit cards and family members to subsidize their lifestyle. "We owe you a sincere apology, Lacey," Mom said during one of our family counseling sessions. "We treated you like a financial resource rather than a daughter, and we prioritized Tyler's wants over your needs and feelings. We also lied to our extended family about your generous contributions, which was unfair and hurtful." The most meaningful part of their apology was their commitment to making amends with our extended family members. Mom and Dad called each relative individually to acknowledge my years of financial support and to correct the false narrative they had spread about my supposed selfishness. Aunt Patricia was particularly shocked to learn the truth. "I owe you an apology too, Lacey," she said when she called me directly. "I believed your parents when they said you weren't helping financially, and I judged you unfairly. Your generosity and responsibility deserve recognition, not criticism." The unauthorized credit card account was resolved through the fraud investigation, with the credit card company removing my responsibility for all charges and flagging my parents' accounts for potential future issues. I also filed police reports about the identity theft, though I chose not to press criminal charges after my parents demonstrated genuine commitment to changing their behavior. Establishing healthy boundaries required ongoing effort and clear communication. I made it clear that I would no longer provide monthly financial support, but I was willing to participate in family events and relationships that were based on mutual respect rather than financial obligation. The first test of these new boundaries came at Easter, when my parents invited me to join them for a modest dinner at their house. Unlike the elaborate Christmas celebration I had been excluded from, this gathering was simple and affordable, with everyone contributing something to the meal. Tyler brought salad ingredients that he had purchased with his own money. Mom prepared a home-cooked ham using ingredients she had bought with her retail job income. Dad contributed rolls and dessert from his consulting work earnings. I brought flowers from my garden and a homemade side dish. "This is the first holiday celebration we've hosted that's completely within our actual budget," Dad admitted as we sat around their kitchen table. "It feels more genuine and meaningful than the expensive celebrations we used to charge to credit cards." Tyler nodded in agreement. "I appreciate everything more when I know how much work goes into earning the money to pay for it. That expensive Christmas dinner you weren't invited to feels really shameful to me now." The conversation during dinner focused on our personal achievements, goals, and experiences, rather than financial matters or material possessions. Tyler talked about skills he was developing at work and friendships he was building with people who valued his character rather than his spending ability. Mom shared stories about customers at her retail job and how much she was enjoying the sense of accomplishment that came from earning her own income. Dad discussed projects he was working on as a consultant and how satisfying it felt to contribute meaningfully to the family budget. I talked about my work at the hospital and some personal goals I was pursuing now that I had more financial freedom to invest in my own future. For the first time in years, I felt valued as a person rather than viewed as a source of financial support. The healing process continued over many months, with regular family counseling sessions and individual conversations that helped everyone understand the impact of our past dynamics and commit to healthier patterns going forward. By Christmas of the following year, our family had established new traditions based on genuine connection, rather than financial expectations or obligations. We drew names for modest gift exchanges, with a spending limit that everyone could afford comfortably. We prepared dinner together, with each person contributing according to their abilities and resources. Tyler had been promoted to assistant manager at his restaurant and was saving money to eventually attend culinary school. His girlfriend situation had evolved too. He was dating someone he had met at work, who appreciated his work ethic and personal growth rather than his ability to fund expensive entertainment. Mom and Dad had paid down significant portions of their debt and were building an emergency fund for the first time in decades. They had also started contributing to retirement accounts, recognizing that they needed to secure their own financial future rather than depending on their children. The most meaningful change was the quality of our communication and emotional connection. Family conversations focused on supporting each other's goals, sharing experiences, and enjoying each other's company. Financial matters were discussed openly when necessary, but they no longer dominated our relationships or created tension and manipulation. I never realized how much stress the financial secrecy and manipulation was creating for all of us, Tyler reflected during one family dinner. Having honest conversations about money and taking responsibility for our own expenses has made our relationships so much healthier and more genuine. Looking back on that devastating Christmas Eve when I received the $9,200 invoice, I realized that the crisis had ultimately saved our family from continuing destructive patterns that were harming everyone involved. Tyler learned the value of hard work and genuine relationships. My parents discovered the satisfaction of financial independence and honest communication, and I established boundaries that protected my financial security while preserving meaningful family connections. The experience taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for family members is to refuse to enable their irresponsible behavior, even when that refusal creates temporary conflict and discomfort. By standing up for myself and demanding accountability, I had forced everyone in my family to grow and change in ways that ultimately made us all stronger and happier. The dollar bill I sent with the note Santa skipped me too had been returned to me by my parents with an apology note attached. "We're sorry we made you feel invisible and undervalued. Your presence in our family is priceless, and we promise to never take your love and generosity for granted again." That note now sits framed on my kitchen counter, reminding me daily that healthy relationships require mutual respect, honest communication, and fair treatment of everyone involved. The crisis that could have destroyed our family ultimately brought us closer together by forcing us to confront and change the unhealthy dynamics that had been damaging our connections for years. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who were taking advantage of your generosity? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most meaningful changes in our relationships. If this story resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with anyone who might benefit from hearing about the importance of standing up for yourself while still maintaining love and hope for family healing. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you deserve to be treated with respect and appreciation in all your relationships. Wishing you strength, wisdom, and the courage to create the healthy boundaries that will protect and nurture your own well-being.